Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Well, I do these videos on a Monday to kind of give you a lift every Monday. And here I am presenting a video entitled on the thumbnail, The Dark Night of the Soul. But do not worry, because no darkness can withstand the light of truth. How's that for a dramatic entry, eh? But it's true. We are going into the darkness and we're going into the nature of oppression. And it's also true that we're going to use the fundamental core knowledge of human design to shine a light on what's going on with the nature of oppression. Yes, we are into the 47th gate. Now, the 47th gate is a Ajna gate. It's a mental conceptualization of realizing what's happening, what's happened in the past. You could call it the gate of nightmares if you wanted to. It's cyclic. It's cyclic. It's tied to the abstract channel that contains the emotional system in it. And so it's about realizing what's happened in the past, but it has emotional content in it. And that can be very torturous. That can be very self-oppressive. But it's also about realizing what the oppression is on the outside as well. Because after all, the mind can be a very useful tool, a terrible master, but a useful tool. So we're going to go into it, and it is a bit heavy, but you'll see it's worthwhile. You're going to learn a lot of different things, and you're going to be able to reflect upon yourself in a new way by the time this video has finished. Let's begin. When we look at the hexagram of oppression, and we know there are 6 lines in the hexagram, we start with taking stock. This is line 1. And it talks about the disastrous results of thinking that oppression is a purely external affair. It isn't. It isn't. No matter how oppressed you may be from the outside, you know, we've all been through some form of state education, I would imagine. You know, I remember going there when I was 5, very ill-equipped to go anywhere, to be quite honest. If you look at my chart, you'll see that. Suddenly surrounded by all these auras and all these dictates and the uniform, and having to be part of that. Nothing I could do about it. That's the first realization when you are faced with external conditioning that you do not understand properly. It's like, well, what to do? You know, what to do about all the different governmental regulations? You know, you have to think about it. It's to realize what is oppressing you, but also what is oppressing you inside. If you are being self-oppressed, if you become a victim of what the external oppression is, you're lost. You know, then it becomes a painful life. The wisdom in the exaltation of line 1 is to look at how you can eradicate the negative sides of it. You know, what is it? How do we get through it? The 47 has this amazing ability to see things in different perspectives, to think about it in this way, to think about it in that way, you know, to really begin to shift the images of the past into different orders in order to see what picture that makes. It's a very visual gate. And in that sense, the salvation, the light is still within it, but you've got to dig deep. It's the first line. You've got to go deep. When we come to the second line, we come to a line of self-motivation. We come to a line of being open or being closed. And here in this line of ambition, we have the ambition to overcome the oppression, to come into oneself, to not believe it. When we're talking about abstraction, we're talking about belief. If you believe there's nothing you can do, then yeah, there's nothing you're going to do. But if you can say, well, look, I'm going to overcome this oppression one way or another through my ambition, through the internal strength that you have. And perhaps this is a good time to give a opening to the entire gate, actually, when I'm talking about inner strength or an external conditioning. Here's the definition of Hexagram 47. A restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength, or both. So we're being oppressed by something on the outside. And if we're weak inside, it will overturn us. It will overcome us. You have to find an inner strength from within. And we see this in the second line. We see this in this radiant line, which can find ways to overcome from within. It's an inner war. And in the bigger picture, it's an inner war between the mind and the nature. As you know, those of you in human design, the mind is never here to be a decision maker. And in this most oppressive of all mental gates, it certainly can be the one in control that can make the life really miserable. In the third line, a line that I have myself unconsciously in an open ajna, the only filter, the line of self-oppression. Now, in its negative, it can be a self-oppression, you oppressing yourself, that can be so highly energized, you know, in that there's nothing I can do, this strong tendency towards being a victim, there's nothing I can do, I'm not good enough, I'm not able to do it, the external conditioning is too strong, that it hacks away at your own self-worth. I am not worthy of being able to overcome this. There's nothing in me that can overcome this kind of external oppression. But it's self-defeating. What is the solution? What is the light? Well, the wonderful thing about the third line is it bounces back, you know, it has its way of having another go. You know, it finds itself on the floor, picks itself up, jumps in again. Let's try another way. Let's think about it in another way. And here it talks about right action, overcoming the unfoundedness of the oppression. It is the light within. It talks of this right action. What's the right action for the 47? The right action for the 47 is to be used as the tool that it is. Let's see if there's another perspective. You know, let's see, what can I do? What action can I take? You know, again, it's not for the mind to make the decision of exactly what the right action is, but in the right action, you overcome the oppression. So when things are, you know, when there's something that you can't handle yourself, maybe go ask someone else, maybe go get some help, maybe break through the roof and get another perspective, more information, something that you didn't know about. Wherever you get it from, there is always something that can be done. Got to understand, it's, you know, we do it to ourselves. We can torture ourselves with this gate. It's both an inner and an outer business. It is the realization of what the oppression is outside and what it is inside. And there are things that you can think about that can find a way through if you apply your energy to it. Not energy to the negative, not energy to the negative thoughts, energy to what can be done. What's the angle here? What's the mythical journey we need to go on in order to overcome the oppression and therefore gain our self-worth, make ourselves stronger inside? The theme goes up into the line of repression, the fourth line, which is really about the external conditioning being so strong. And what can resist that? The sense of identity, the sense of your own self-worth, that somehow you're going to get through it, perhaps through this friend or this opportunity or that opportunity. A sense of identity that can be maintained despite the external conditioning. And the other side of it, the identity overwhelmed by the external conditioning. So it's looking for the opportunity. If you're in a situation where there isn't much money, well, what money can you save? What can you begin, what little treasure trove can you begin to build up to give you some security in order to take action later on? The theme of patience is very important here, just as it is with anything to do with the emotional system. Patience, you're in processing. The 47 is there to process what's going on inside, what's going on outside. How are you reacting to the outside? What can you do to get your own security as an identity within you? This is the light. This is the light building up inner strength, no matter what's out there, no matter what you're enduring. If you want to hear a song about it, listen to Ricky Lee Jones' Ghost Train from Flying Cowboys album. I mean, that's overcome by the external condition. And often it's what people go through when they've taken too many drugs and they're addicted. It's when you try to find a way through by jumping into a dream. And what happens is your life becomes a nightmare. As I said, this is like a gate of, interpreting dreams or being in the dream or chasing the dream, Oh, I'll put some more money on the lottery, and that'll get me through the external conditioning, because it will be given to me. It will come to me. And there's nothing I have to do but buy this ticket and be ripped off again. It's something to really realize that the world will be selling you dreams to get out of your oppression while they're oppressing you. So you spend more of your resources on chasing unlikely dreams, unlikely fulfillment, and get lost there. Or taking yourself away into some fantasy in a film or a book and not really dealing with the reality of your life. The mind can be a very useful tool, an incredibly useful tool to help you navigate what's going on in the world. Or it can, in this case, take you away into a fantasy where the world is not looked at, where you come away from it and you go, well, I'm not going to play that game. And the whole life begins to disintegrate at a material and emotional and spiritual level. Finding the inner strength. When we come to the saint in the 5th line, I've already talked about this as one of the most positive gates, to be able to have a harmonious relationship with one's oppressors as well as those who are oppressed. It is the ultimate in realization to be able to see the other person's side, to be able to see the weight of the abstract process, the weight of being in form, the weight of living in a body, where you have to maintain it all the time and you have to maintain everything around it. It's understanding that we all have to go through that. It's a beautiful line. It is the light shining out, the transpersonal aspect that you can see in some people and in yourself too, when you understand the other person's point of view, when you realize what they've had to go through to be where they are, no matter how they may be an external oppression on you, you can see where it comes from. You can see the pain in what they've gone through. You can see they're trapped in their own nightmare. And when we finally come to the 6th line, we come to the line of futility, something else I'm carrying around in my open ajna. And I've also talked about this, but now I want to look at it in another way. I want to look at it as something that is beyond the oppression. The 6th line is hovering above the hexagram. It's not locked into it. And it says, life is an ordeal stripped of realization. There is no way, there is nothing to do. It's only fixed in detriment. This is the accumulation of all that processing, of all that experience of life. Like, well, there's nothing you can do. So that's the negative. But since I do have it in an open ajna, let me give you another side to it. If there's nothing that can be done, there's nothing that can be done. Don't think about it. Deal with what you can deal with. Deal with what can be done. A good analogy for the 47/6, I think, the line of futility, is like when you've had a car for a long time and you keep spending more and more money on it because it keeps breaking down, first this thing, then that thing, then the other. And it's really futile after a while because, like, it keeps breaking down. There comes a time when you got to let it go. There comes a time when worrying about it and sorting it out and pouring money down the drain and with it has to stop. And that brings us to the real nub of the whole thing, in that this is a mental gate, that will hold on to ideas. It will hold on to its thoughts. All awareness gates will hold on. They're aware of something. And if you have an open ajna, you're going to hold on to the oppression. You're going to hold on to the problem. You're going to hold on to the thing that is, really in your way. Or not. Or not. There are things that we have to let go of. There are things that we're holding on to mentally that are creating and will create problems in our life because we're stuck in the past with it. We're stuck on trying to resolve something that cannot be resolved. Let it go. Come back to the body. Come back to the form. Come back to being incarnated. Come back to focusing on what you can live, that is lifting you, that is being in the life. Let it go. It's futile. Let it go. It's just thought. Let that mind be a tool to be used to see other perspectives, to gain your inner strength, to be able to rise up against the oppression, not in a revolutionary way, in a way of identity and inner security that brings outer security and a stronger foundation upon which to live. That's the light. That's the light. It's not to look at it, it's to go towards it. It's to see it brighten up inside you. It's to see it getting stronger every time you overcome that oppression and this oppression and that oppression. You get stronger because you've done it, because you've got through it. It gives you the inner confidence to go forward and try again until eventually, a lot of the outer conditioning, a lot of the outer oppression falls away. It falls away in the light of your own inner strength. This is a mental gate. You can send it out into the dreams, you can send it out into the fantasies, you can send it out into the repetitive nightmare of repeating the oppression within you and becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. And the forces around you getting stronger and stronger and stronger because you're weaker. Or you can stand up. Or you can stand up and see what it is that you can do. So your energy there, with your life force, with whatever you have in you, that is now looking like, hey, how can we get out of this? How can we overcome the oppression in our life? In our life. This is about life. We're here to live the life. We're not here to be lost up in the mind, taking no notice of what's happening in the reality of our physical surroundings. And it can take us there. And you know what happens? Life just gets more and more in your face. You have to deal with it one way or another. That's the other side of the futility. Whatever you may think. It's quite a game to be incarnated in a physical body. It really is. We have to deal with the reality, despite the wonderful fantasies that are out there, despite the wonderful dreams that are out there. We have to deal with the reality of what it is to be in form and what it is to live a life. And that involves letting go of things. And it certainly involves letting go of oppressive thoughts. Let them be oppressed when they're looking at the different perspectives. That's great. Then you're locked into it. It might be a difficult state to be in, but at the same time, it can find ways. It's a great aspect of the mind in that it can make sense of all kinds of things in all kinds of ways. But you hold on to the negative and you become a victim in it, and the life doesn't work. This is a gate that can get us through some of the hardest times, as well as giving us some of the hardest times. Yeah, it's an internal thing. It's an internal thing. The way that you treat your life, the way that you think about your life and what's on top of you, what's oppressing you, it's internal. Strengthen the internal, focus on the positive, eradicate the negative, find a way through, take action when you respond, or depending on whatever your strategy and authority is, and be patient. You'll get through it. So quite a teacher, this 47, quite a teacher, and a lot of light in it, despite all the negative sides to it. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was that was quite a full-on video, and if you did, please like and share and subscribe, and I will be back again very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.